Shaq, what are you talking about?
The earth is flat.
No, it's not.
Yeah, it is.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
No,
listen,
it's not.
There's 3 ways to manipulate the mind. What you read, what you see, and what you hear.
Okay.
Conspiracies.
In school, first thing they teach us is, Columbus discovered America. But when he got there, it was some fair-skinned people with the long hair smoking out of peace pipes. So what does that tell you? Columbus didn't discover America.
He found where some other people already lived.
I drive from coast to coast, and this is flat to me. I'm just saying.
Okay, that's the dumbest thing you've ever said.
I drive from Florida.
It's the dumbest thing you've ever said.
I drive from Florida to California all the time, and it's flat to me.
92 podcasts, and that's the dumbest thing you've ever said. That's a high bar to get over.
I do not go up and down in a 360-degree angle and all that stuff about gravity. Have you looked outside of Atlanta lately and seen all these buildings? So you mean to tell me that China is under us? China is under us.
If you keep
they are under us.
That's what they tell you when you're a kid?
The world is flat.
If you dug straight through your backyard, you could get to China.
No, you can't. The
world is not flat.
Yes, it is.
We've seen the Earth.
No, we haven't seen anything.
Yes, you have. You've seen it from satellite imagery.
Oh, satellite imagery that could be drawn and made up.
So here's the audio of the reporter asking Kyrie that exact same question.
You've seen pictures of the planet, though, right? Like it's a circle. So
I've seen a lot of things that that my educational system has said that was real and turned out to be completely fake. So, I mean, I don't mind. I don't mind going against the grain in terms of my thoughts.
Exactly. Well, I'm with him because we're from Jersey. And that's how we think. We think outside the box.
Tells you about the educational system in Jersey.
I'm just saying.
I think it's more of an indictment on that.
I'm just saying when I drive from Florida to New York, flat. Right. New York to Seattle,
it's
flat.
Not flat.
Seattle down to L.A., flat. L.A. back to Florida, flat. It's it's a square. That's what it is.
The Earth.
When we got down in that room, I had 6 marshals standing shoulder to shoulder surround me, and William Rehnquist came down from up in his chambers to see me, and I says, I have your signed confession for treason against the United States people. I says, I've used parsé syntax grammar against your opinion since you've been in office. He says, okay, guys, you can all leave now. Mr. Miller and I are going to sit in this closed room. You've already frisked him. He has no weapons. He doesn't seem to be of stature that can overpower me. And we're going to have a little discussion. So for the next 2.5 hours, William Rehnquist and I became very good friends. And until he died and I removed him from office in June of 2005, we were pretty good friends. I taught him syntax, the math interface on grammar, and he taught me all the secrets of the procedures of judges. But a lot of the things he taught me, he was in error of because 2/3 of all the words were missing from the procedures by which he wanted to formulate answers. The fraud that takes place here is profound with the courthouses and the courts. And people say we're in court and the judge says, this is Judge Wasilewski, he says, David, after he took away my children in 1980, I went to trial 65 consecutive times, 2 weeks apart, under what's called a writ de novo. Now, this is a pronoun, adverb, adverb, verb. But if you put for the writ of de novo, then this becomes a 5, a 6, a 7, a 5, a 6, and a 7. This is French, but D means the in novo. It would then become a fact. So I filed for the writ of the de novo. Now what that means is if you violate equality, that's discrimination. That's a crime. 1964 Civil Rights Act violation. So for the writ of de novo is your ticket to get a free trial for anything. I don't care what it is. They cannot move forward on any topic. If they want to foreclose your house, and they use adverb verb, they didn't give you equal protection of the law. That's a prepositional phrase. For the protection of the law using the correct parsé syntax grammar. Therefore, you can sue for a writ of de novo just for the be correct on the grammar. It doesn't matter if you got a mortgage or a deed of trust. Indiana uses the terminology mortgage. California uses the terminology deed of trust. Deed is a pronoun, of is an adverb, making trust a verb. The word mortgage, by it stands alone on top of your document, is called a pronoun. There's no prepositional phrase. You know, if I hold up this object, you see a pen. In Spanish, it's scribola. And if I hold this object about 5,000 languages, I'll get 5,000 different sounding effects to what it is. Does 2 plus 2 equal 4? How many of you think 2 plus 2 equals 4? All right, just all's fair. Did you hear what I said, what I meant, what I said, what I said, what I meant, what I said? I can do this 150 different ways before I'm going to get it right. So don't ever presume what you think I said, because if my lips are moving, I'm lying to you. That's what a judge said to me. He says, all you got to do is prove it. He says, and in 8,500 years, Wasilewski says, no one has ever proved it. And I said to him, I said, oh, I says, I know what you said to me. You said to me, wait a minute. He says, you mean to say if I say yes, you're going to say no? He says, well, you're here to arrest our judges. I says, yeah, I have warrants for 33 judges in your courthouse, signed by the United States Supreme Court and the World Court at The Hague. I'm the chief judge of Hawaiian Islands, federal judge. I says, you guys are only district, which is demon god of the underworld for trickery judges. I says, so you don't have any standing here. I says, I've got the only standing. I says, not only that, you anchored your vessel, which is your courthouse building, on our island. He says, I'm the elected king of Hawaii, and you've got your vessel anchored on my island. Do you have a drogue law? That means to anchor. In the correct parse syntax grammar, to anchor your vessel on my island? I don't think so. Do you have a sea pass, S-E-E, to pass through our borders? Do you have a sea treaty, SEA, to move your vessel amongst the sea of space? You don't have any of these treaties? It means you're trespassing. I says, and I've got warrants for your arrest. So then 3 marshals come down. Yeah, what are you doing here? I says, I'm a sovereign. I'm the only sovereign in the United States. I have my own country. My own country. And guess what the land of my country is? The land of the courtroom during the time of contract. No one has ever claimed the land of the courtroom during the time of contract. So every courtroom I go into on planet Earth is my country on planet Earth, because I was appointed to me through the United Nations, where all 200 countries treated with me, saying, when you come into a courtroom, you are the senior chief judge under land of the contract, and because your contracts are written in quantum grammars, which creates the constitution of the land of the contract. The courtroom. And the courtroom is not a geographical location. It's paper, folks. The land of paper is the contract. Because the contract of the paper is not bonded to the room is just a point of convenience. So, what is a courtroom? A courtroom is a piece of paper. And the words on the paper are the thoughts. Hold a thought in your hand, show me the three-dimensional object of the thought. So therefore, the understanding of the courtroom is the correct parse syntax grammar on paper in a geographical location that is neutral, called the land of the courthouse, or the land of the courtroom. Now, let's say we were in court today, and every person in this room sat here in front of me with a different contract, one for divorce, one for trespassing, one for shoplifting, one for traffic, drunk driving, underage. and as a result of that, does your contract for traffic have anything to do with his divorce or his marriage or his trespassing? The answer is no. So each one of your paper contracts that you have is a vessel in a sea of space. And your name is on that document. Therefore, that is your bill of lading, your passport to be in the closed area called court. And the condition, the contract, the words on that document, if they're written in adverb verb, say nothing. Therefore, they're called art, A-R-T. Vowel and two consonants, no contract. How do you spell ink? I-N-K. I-N means no, K is knowledge. You have no knowledge because you put ink on paper in adverb verb. They've been advertising in plain view, all of this, throughout your entire life. And just like all the pictures on the wall here, they're all in a box, which is called framing. And framing is a box under four corners, which is an enclosed area and can't be considered, so you can't be insulted by any one of the pictures or have any subjective interpretation as to the condition of what the people look like because they're in a box. The lawyers and the attorneys and this whole thing about syntax is in front of you every place you go and everything you do, all the time. The unique thing is that we are here, and I'm talking to you in real time, and we're all on the same plane, P-L-A-N-E. That means you can see me and you can hear me. Now, sheet of paper. I just disappeared. You can't see me anymore. I'm on a stage. Even though it's 0.02 of an inch thick, called a piece of paper, I changed my plane. I just disappeared. Now I'm on a stage. On a stage, you can't see me. You can't hear me. You can't be insulted by me in any way, shape, or form. It's only your subjective interpretation as to what you see and hear now. That's why actors, Federal Rules of Civil Procedure 44.1, all judges are actors. And they're on a different plane than you are. Therefore, you can't see them or hear them. That's why they're immune, because they haven't said anything or done anything. Now, who sits in front of the actor on the stage? The clerk of the court with the computer. Now, what do you see her do? The whole time the judge is up there with his computer screen. He's typing here like this. He's telling the judge what to do because she's on your plane and she's the puppet master and he's the actor being told what to do. So the clerk of the court, who takes the paper? Right. Who takes the clerk of the court takes your money, gives you a receipt. That's called banking. You go to the bank, the teller at the bank takes your money, cancels your check, gives you money, which is doing a transaction, just like ordering food at a restaurant. You order your food, the waitress writes it down on a piece of paper, which is a bill of lading, takes it back, brings out your food, gives you a receipt. If your MasterCard, you sign it. If it's cash, you take it up to the cash register. You do banking. She gives you a receipt. You give her money. You pay for your cargo. You go to the court. You hand her the vessel. You see a space. The vessel comes to the port of the court. The vessel gets docked. Therefore, we put a docket number on it, docking the vessel. You pay $350 docking fee, and now you have a document. DOC, DOC, DOC. You see, we're using the terminology and bringing things into first-person knowledge now, so you're aware of what's happening. When the document comes to the port of the court, the document has a stamp on it. The stamp is autographed by the postmaster delivering the vessel to the port of the court, who also puts a stamp on and signs it. Therefore, we have postmaster to postmaster docking a vessel. The vessel is an independent. Now, this is something some of you know or don't know. All judges are actors. They do not become a judge until they autograph this document. If they autograph the stamp of this document, then they are the judge in the case. A judge who does not sign this document is not a judge. When you walk into the courtroom, the judge is up there and says, "Did you sign the paper?" The judge says, "No." That's not the judge. That's an actor. Who did sign your paper? The clerk of the court did. She's the judge. So you can say, Judge, you're not on my plane. Get out of my courtroom. Now, when I walk into a courtroom, I walk in and it says, Judge, you're excused. I'm going like, this is a state court. I'm in charge. I said, Bailiff, I deputize you as my tip staff. Arrest the judge for trespassing in my courtroom. I have a federal oath. I have a federal oath of office. I have it in my possession. I've signed the stamp. I'm on a federal plane. That's a federal flag. This is a federal court. We're here for money. This document says there's money on it. This stamp is $1 stamp on it. This is postal money. We're in a postal vessel in dry dock under a postal stamp. This is a federal flag. I says this vessel has jurisdiction and I have an oath of office that matches this contract. I am the only standing federal judge in this courtroom. Arrest that man as an imposter. That judge is usually running out the door as fast as he can get before the bailiff can get a hold of him. Then I turn and I says, I've syntaxed the district attorney's paperwork here, and now I'm prosecuting the district attorney for a $25 million fine and 30 years in prison for false and misleading statements to damage a citizen. And about that time, he's running out the door. And if he's standing his ground, then I got the bailiff arresting him. And if you've been in court and you've seen this happen and that, you're going like, never seen that before. The other attorneys do the same thing. When I was in Australia, we did this. And a district attorney, my client was a dwarf, stood 3 feet 9 inches tall. And when she walked in there, everybody kind of got out of her way. And I was there, and the judge goes, "Are you a representative?" And he says, "No, sir, I'm a claimant." "Well, who's that?" And he says, "She owns the property. I'm a claimant on her property." "Well, you're not on title." I syntaxed the mortgage contract for New South Wales. I says, "It's false and misleading." I says, "Because I syntaxed, I'm a claimant on the document for false and misleading statements." I syntaxed the prosecuting attorneys who wants to foreclose her property. This man has committed a felony against this court. He's got a second grade reading level. Doesn't have an oath of office. He's not a barrister. I don't know what he is, but he's got a wig on. He looks like a clown, personally. And this guy is like, "How can you talk to me like that?" I says, "Because I'm a federal judge in New South Wales, and I have a federal oath, and we're in a state court, mind you." And I says, "And as a state, it says you may be a state judge, but you're not on our plane, therefore you've not come to court. Clerk of the courts," I says, "I hereby deputize you as my clerk." I says, "Bailiff," I says, "you're now my tip staff." I says, "This is a federal court. Arrest this person for treason against the people. Arrest the judge for impersonation." And the judge stands up and goes, "We're going to continue this for another 45 days. I said, "You can't continue anything. I already arrested you guys. You're out of the picture." And this guy turns to these 12 barristers sitting behind him and he goes like, "This guy just handed my head to me in a basket." He goes, "Do something." And they all took their coats and pulled them over their heads, and they're all talking through their coats going, "He's your problem." When you file a lawsuit, this is just a copy of one of my oaths. What I do is, we have a stamp on one side because it has value. We have a flag making it federal. And this is an authentic oath, and I think this one is this is my Hawaiian oath of office. And this makes me a federal judge in Hawaii. And when you put value on the front, you have to endorse the top of the back, just like you endorse the top of your checks at the bank. Now, the reason, what is an endorsement? Okay, we write. Now, if this was 75 feet long, we'd call this, as a single document, we'd be bonded. We roll it all up, called a scroll. And so, now that it's been rolled up, we put the wax seal on here, going all the way back 6,700 years, and the king would then use the ring to put the seal on. And the ring, the seal, was the same as an autograph. And when you unwrap it, the seal is at the top of the back of the value. Therefore, you have an endorsement. That's been practiced for 6,700 years without fail. So therefore, it's legitimate. Okay, you got 45 days, trust law, offer, 45-day answer. The state court?
County.
State court. Then you've got, that's 90. If you add 45 to that, you get 135. So that doesn't work. So what they're doing is, there's a 10-day offer, a 10-day answer, a 20-day answer, and a 10-day response. That gives you 120, and then you've got your 3-day rescission law. That would make it 123 days, which would expire. So he had to make it at 122 days. So he was under the 1-day limit under the rescissions law, otherwise he'd be in violation of notice. This is an offer, this is an acceptance. These are 2 45-day trusts running. This is a vacated contract on its face. It's not legal.
Later in the conversation, you lightly mentioned it again, and you say because then it would be under the new Judge Reed.
Okay, what you have here is this. You have a... everybody okay with this, or do you want to get into more of this? There's events that are taking place that are becoming more and more relevant to the relevancy of what quantum language is and its importance in the timeline of this planet, and why I'm allowed to teach this, and how specific events have taken place that I've uncovered in contract language, like the beginning of the post office, how the fraud took place, and been able to unravel who do you prosecute in court. When we go to court, this here is a federal lawsuit that I wrote. This deals with, this one is for, this is the International Maritime Organization. Russell Gould and I put this one together. But this is a document contract, federal postal court, federal court venue document. It's postal, folks. We have federal flag and a federal postage stamp. This is a federal court we're suing. When this goes into this commission under maritime law, this is the court. This paper is. And when it's filed at the Maritime Commission, this was filed creating this vessel in a sea of space to be the court. They have to come into the understanding of the syntax within this document and say, all the Maritime Commission officers have to say, show me your correct parse, syntax, grammar, oath of office. Show me the correct parse, syntax, laws, rules, regulations, and codes that allow you to do and capture the things you capture. We have rewritten your lawsuit, or rewritten your charter in the correct parse, syntax, grammar. And we are now forming a treaty with you through the Document Contract Postal Vessel Corporation. That's myself and Russell Gould. Yes?
So if you taught this stuff to them, you mentioned in 2000, why are they still going on in their fiction?
They're only advertising the fiction to you as the population. Why? Because if they were to stand up and say, okay, we've got a quantum contract here, and the whole planet is sitting there in fiction, it'd be like the president getting on CNN and explaining the dollar bill to you, disqualifying all money. You can't have... The whole world has been 8,500 years in fiction with all their fiction contracts. So you have to be responsible at all times. That when we want to switch gears, I only have to educate 1% of the population. Those are your political leaders, your judges, your attorneys, your politicians, Congress, Senate, the legislature of all 250 countries, all the bankers, simultaneously where the United Nations stands up and says, we're going to switch gears today. Everybody changes on the same day.
Is that going to happen?
Yeah, it's going to happen. Just like they had the new money come out. They went to the euro. These were different exercises in communicating a change, a dynamic change of a large area of international trade, commerce, and contract, and see how the people accepted it. Well, it worked for the euro. It worked for when the new money came out. Nobody got crazy. Stock market didn't go nuts. Well, even the Marshal Service said, we've heard the word Article 3 judge. We've never met one before. You're a genuine sovereign and an Article 3 judge. And an Article 3 judge is a judge on contract, folks. I don't work in a courtroom. Don't sit in a courthouse anywhere in the world. The courthouse is the paper. The paper is the contract. The contract words on the paper is a constitution. The Constitution articulates, under law of the flag and postal codes, the geographical location in terms of a constitution, Title 28, 1331, venue, authorization for a clerk to file the paperwork, a 1361 authorization for a judge, and a Title 28, Section 636 to order the court open. In other words, ordering the piece of paper to be an open court, and whoever signs the stamp endorses it and puts their name on it as a federal judge is the federal judge on the paper. Because it's a federal stamp and a federal flag, there is no such thing as a state court. Any state court touching money, doesn't it say Federal Reserve Note? You can't be federal in a state entity. If there is no money involved in a state court operation, they must get you to sign a bond making your body collateral for the bond. There's no paper. You become a value as a bond. That's why you have to bond out of a state court. They can't create money. They're not federal. They're state. And the courthouse is a foreign vessel in dry dock. So you've left Indiana territory, and now you've entered the condition of an illusion who makes you bond yourself. Once you're bonded to the vessel in dry dock, the sheriff can leave the courthouse, and the sheriff is only there to protect the judge, and go out and capture you as a bounty hunter. And that gives him his authorization to leave the vessel and go out onto the Indiana territory and capture you. If you don't bond out, you'll never leave the foreign vessel in dry dock. Because if they don't own you, they can't leave the courthouse to come and get you. Now, when you file one of my lawsuits in federal district court, once it's contracted with the clerk of the courts, which is responsible to receive vessels and dock the vessel, a district court judge is not a federal judge. They must sign the federal oath and must sign the federal lawsuit to be a federal judge on the lawsuit. The federal judge is going to come back. Federal judge is going to come back, and here's your case number. It's 12 CV 123. That's what the clerk puts on your paperwork. The judge is going to come back and he's going to answer you 12 CV lowercase 0123. It's a different case number. Or they're going to come back and say C 12123. That's another case number. Then they're going to come back CV 120123. Lowercase CV 1200123. 12 uppercase CV 0123. These are all. Then they're going to say, well, this is the case number here. No, all these are different case numbers. Now, if you had taken one of these and put them as the key to get into your computer, you think that any of these are going to open up your computer except the correct one? Same thing is true when you go looking for the case number at the courthouse. They punch that in there. They're not going to find your case number. Then they're going to say, well, you paid $350 for this case number, and they dismissed your case under this one. Or the judge sent, come to court with this number. The lawyer filed this one. The lawyer answered back to this one. The judge dismissed your case with this one. and they want you to come into court to arbitrate this one when this is your original number. Okay, once your original number is filed, we run 45-day trust law and 3-day rescissions. Once those 48 days go by, you have now a document contract, a fault document contract claim. 4 words. Writ of the fault document contract claim. We filed the lawsuit. We filed the correct parse syntax grammar. We took the let's see here. There it is. This here is your deed of trust to your property here in Indiana. And we identified every single word by placing a number on top of it. All 6,000 words. So we couldn't, if we take this document and write the word adjective on top of the word red, we wouldn't have enough space, right? So we use the number 3 in place of it. When we do numbers, you can read 300 words a second when it comes time to correct this document. You know that? It just takes a little bit of practice, and all of a sudden, like, you're aware you can read 300 words a second in number codes. The mind can comprehend 10,000 thoughts a second. So doing 300 a second is just, once you get used to it, it's a breeze to blow through contracts and read in number codes. What you're walking into and what you see. The flags that you see in all over the world, there's 11 different flags in the United States, military and civilian operations, including the new one. And there's another one. When President Obama on Election Day was elected, if you look at the pictures on all the newspapers across the United States, you saw this flag hanging behind Obama. It's a New World Order flag. It has a circle of stars, a blue square field, and it's 1 to 2.25. They also had another one with 50 stars, 1 to 2.25. That was the United States Treasury flag. The flag that's 3 by 4 with a blue square field is a military boat flag. All vessels in dry dock on planet Earth, like your own personal house, the school building, these are all vessels in dry dock. They should be flying a 3 by 4 boat flag. The flag over here with yellow fringe on it. See if I can. This is a 1 to 1.9. I recognize this is old. This is a very old flag, by the way. When you take the flag and you fold it like this, corner to corner, and then you take it, and you put it up here to the corner, it should only have one stripe showing, which does. So this is a 1 to 1.9 flag. By putting a fringe on it, you say that the contract for the United States of America, or the better known as the Constitution, has been captured by the yellow fringe, which is the court flags, maritime law. It says your contract is null and void because they put a phoenix on top. So the wingtips pointed down is a Vatican banking phoenix. Wingtips up is a your postal eagle. I call it the postal chicken. The acorn, as you see, the acorn is for military parades. It's a military symbol, ACC meaning no contract. The spear is for military court-martials. And the ball is for military advertising and military recruiting. Henceforth, you have it in front of the post office. with the ball on top, and inside the post office you have the eagle on top because the post office is postal. Henceforth, you're in the postal building, but outside is where you sign up for the draft. Everyone you turn 18, you got to sign up for the draft. You've got, I don't know, 90 days after your 18th birthday to do so. The 3x5 flag is a military flag with a blue square field. It's used for parades. The reason that they have this flag, not the 1 to 1.9 flag, is because of the weight of the flag would hang down, whereas in a marching at 3 miles an hour, the wind would catch it and it would be aloft because of its weight. The 1 to 1.9 flag I now hold copyrights to as the correct sentence structure, communication, parse, syntax, grammar flag, recognized worldwide, both in black and white and in color, red, white, and blue. The 3x5 base flag has a 3x4 field, and this is for military bases. The ones they sell at Walmart are 3x5 with a blue square field. That is a military flag. And when the sentence runs like this, when they come looking for your jurisdiction, what flag are you flying? If you've got a military base flag outside your door, don't be surprised if the military can go ahead and set up camp in yours, because you've given it military jurisdiction to start with. 1999, November 2nd. President doesn't take office until the even year. They're elected on the odd year. It's 2012, yes, but the president doesn't take office until 2013. No, 1999, November 2nd, was the end of the third international bankruptcy. There was no election take place that year. I mean, the election took place, but the president wasn't appointed until the 2nd of February 2000. And Bush was reinstated. This was Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton said on November 2nd he would be the last president of the United States of America. On the 2nd of February 2000, the United States of America Corporation took over. The democracy was dead. The Constitution expired. And that, you're a postal employee. You carry postage stamps in your pocket.
So where does the UCC fall in?
UCC is copyrighted by England, has no effect on the United States. If you use copyrighted material from a foreign country on a foreign vessel in dry dock, you're babbling because you don't have a copyright release. Only attorneys and lawyers and judges have a copyright release from England. That's why they joined the bar. If you're not a bar member, you can't practice in a foreign vessel in dry dock. So how do you capture a foreign vessel in dry dock? You don't. You create a court within a court. In other words, when you file a lawsuit with a stamp on it, it's a postage vessel. The postage vessel, when the sentence structure says, this is the document because it came to the dock, received the docket number, and is now a document. Document contract. 2 or more people make contract. There is 2 people, your claimant and a vassalete. Document contract, postal vessel. Postage stamp on a piece of paper is vessel. It's federal, so it's a federal court venue. The word jurisdiction, people, means opinion. Don't use the word jurisdiction. Why do you think you have a jury? A jury, J-U, means no law, and R-Y is contract. It's a no-law contract. The word judge sits on a plane different than yours. Even in tribal law, whether it be the witch doctor is the judge, the king of a tribe, anywhere on the planet, a president, a dictator, they all stand on a plane to break the continuance of evidence as an actor on a stage, talking babble in adverb verb language. Therefore, you go into an auditorium You see a person on a stage, they are under contract to perform. You buy a ticket, which is a contract of your opinion. Your opinion is on stages. Your stages, here's the plane of the stage, and then you have your seating going up. This breaks the continuance of evidence with the stage, and you are only witnesses or opinion entities watching actors on a stage. No different in the courtroom.
So the only way to engage and have your rights or whatever you're trying to do...
Engage means no contract, ING.
To gauge when you go in there.
And that's a correct word. You do gauge a situation. Gauging means to analyze, to look at the knowledge of your environment. You're gauging the difference between right and wrong, good and evil. You're gauging the conduct of what the actors are, ACT, no contract people, because they write everything in the courtroom is in an illusion. And I'm going to put a courtroom up here in a minute and show you the tricks and the traps that are going to happen inside that.
So when I go to file a document, or a doc.
No, it's a document.
Okay. Do I put my stamp on that document?
Yes. And you sign it, making you the postmaster and postmaster, banker, and judge authorized to transport the vessel from the street into the vessel in dry dock. You send before you walk into the courthouse to dock your vessel, you mail it, registered mail to yourself. Your vessel has now been registered with the post office, which is controlled of the port authorities, which licensed the courthouse to dock its vessel on planet Earth. In the event that you are the postmaster now signing the stamp to carry the document into the courthouse, you are the letter carrier and postmaster authorized to transport the vessel to the clerk's office, and you can't be arrested as a letter carrier delivering the mail to the courthouse, even though it's a foreign vessel in dry dock, because you're already the post office, which controls the port authorities, which docks the vessel. So you have a higher authority. You're like the senior judge of the courthouse. Little secrets.
Did they still stamp that document?
Yes, and when they stamp it, they make contract. Absolutely. I sign every federal district court stamp. I sign over the top of it, capturing.
So I ask for it back.
Absolutely. You sign all yours and say, they all have to be conformed. Give me that back. I'm going to sign my name over your stamp, and you sign your name too, clerk.
And you usually have to have 5 copies. So do I send 5 copies?
Actually, 7. They get 2. You keep the rest, 5 back.
Okay, so I mail 7 copies to myself?
No, just the one.
Just the one.
Just to get the serial number. That's all you want. It's a registered serial number.
Okay. Then how do I have a copy or...
You keep the registered serial number. You're going to mail it to yourself. You keep the envelope.
Okay. Got it.
Okay? If you have one copy that's sealed inside there, it's always sealed inside there. If it ever comes to a...
I'm not jumping the gun, but are you going to just go through all of
these? Yes, I'm going to go through all the procedures on it. Yes.
She told me that she can't let me have the document back once she stamped it.
All of them are stamped, and if you sign the others in front of her, they all have to be conformed. If her copy is not conformed, then she has an illegal copy. She doesn't have an original. If you sign across their stamp, you have the original. She has to take possession of that.
But she said, I cannot give you this document once I've stamped it.
No, that's because they don't want you to be legal and become the chief judge of the courthouse so that you're in charge. You become the chief judge of the courthouse when you do that.
So if they don't give it back, how do you respond?
Well, I always get it back. I says, I'm the federal judge in this courthouse. I have my oath on file. You better give me that court back. This is under Title 15. Which one is that? That's Title 46, Section 9.
I just tell them I'm the judge?
946. Well, I have a 17-year running position. Everybody knows me already.
So how do I do that?
Oh, if you sign, as she hands you back the documents, you sign all of them. And if she knows what she's doing, she'll give you back their copies so they're all conformed.
Right. So
because when you say to her,
and she doesn't give me hers, then she is
illegal.
Illegal.
Right. You're saying, you know what? I have originals here signed. I says, now how are you going to explain to your boss that you don't have a signed original copy and you only have a half the position done? You didn't follow your duties.
And that's what I'm wondering, is the enforcement.
Now, under Title 18, Section 641, folks, misappropriations. Title 18, 641, misappropriations. That means you took a paycheck and you didn't do your job. That's misappropriation for not doing your job. That's a 10-year, $10,000 fine, a $9,000 fine, and 12 years in prison under another title site of the same. Comes under 946 instead of 941.
What was the title number?
Title 18, 641 through 665 is the misappropriations rules. You can pull it up on the internet and go through the whole thing. Yes.
So does that mean when we took for the mortgage fraud, the ones that we filed at the district court in South Bend, when we gave them the copies to file stamp them, we gave those to have them all file stamped and have the case number stamped on them.
Correct.
And then we took ours back and they kept theirs.
Correct.
So, was that correct, or
No, they have their 2 copies, you have your 5. But in front of them, you sign or autograph your name across their stamp. And when you autograph your name across their stamp, they have to give you back those 2 to autograph also. Otherwise, they're not in conformity. And that makes you in contract with that building, with that vessel being docked. And when she gives you a receipt for your money filing, you also sign that receipt. You sign your name across the registered mail sticker. You sign your name across the money sticker that's put on your registered mail. You sign your name across the stamp. Anything the post office gives you, you sign your name, autograph your name across it. Not sign, but autograph across that stamp. And if it ever comes to push and shove where you got to walk into court going, I'm a federal judge, I'm federal postmaster, I've signed my documents. I have the physical evidence in my possession that goes with this. This was docked at the post office before it was ported with the port authorities. The post office has jurisdiction over the port authorities. And so therefore you haven't filed protocols. In my lawsuits that I file with you as your mortgages, identify the clerk of the court on the 48th day as the federal judge of that lawsuit, because she's required or he's required, the clerk of the court is required to autograph her name or his name on that stamp as the postmaster receiving a vessel in dry dock. That's protocol. If they skip over that procedure, they're guilty of misappropriations. And you can go to jail for 12 years. And you can have when you download the laws on this, you take it in with them under misappropriations, and you present that to them saying, here, read this. See what this says? Now do exactly as I tell you. If you got a problem, you get your supervisor. You got a problem with that, you get the chief judge. You got a problem with that, call John Roberts at the United States Supreme Court. You got a federal judge here, chief federal judge can call the United States Supreme Court John Roberts. You can call Hillary Clinton, Secretary of State. Now he's Bill's counsel. So I'm killing flies in windows, glass windows with 20-pound sledgehammers, and I'm not breaking the glass. And so they come to me and they're going like, we're not going to obey this. We're not going to do this. I'm going like, you want to go to jail for 12 years? Feel lucky today? And he says, I'm the last man you want to go ahead and play games with.
Right, but you can do it. But
why? If you follow the procedures, you can do it too. It's all about conviction. It's all about being cool and collective. Of course, I have an advantage of you guys because I don't have adrenal glands, so I don't have the jack high, jack low. Me, I'm just data. I'm a Spock. Since Star Trek came out, everyone's called me Data and Spock. Yes.
On your autograph, is it printed or can cursive be?
No. Always print it. Print it. Yes. And when I did that in school, they cracked my knuckles and said, "You will not write that way. We're going to force you to be in fiction."
Cursive writing in school.
Say again.
They're taking cursive writing out of the public schools. Did you know that?
They're taking it out because of this program. Yes, I've been suing, and the teachers are going, "This is correct. We're wrong." And they're changing. This program is changing all languages on the planet. You can't move forward. You see, on January 6, 2012, there was a little glitch that took place. The Hubble's telescope took a picture. And the picture showed 3 more of these spacecrafts in Greenland headed this way, which will be here on 12/21/2012. Courtroom. Courtroom's divided into planes. P-L-A-N-S. E-S. Sometimes I get ahead of myself. All right. Plane number 1 is the level playing field, such as this room. Plane number 2 is where the clerk of the court sits, on a 4-inch high podium above your plane. Plane number 3 is the witness box, or the jury box. Anything in a box is an enclosed area and cannot be considered. As you well know, since the Constitution of the United States was created, you must have a 12-man jury. What you don't know is that the jury box is built like this with chairs on the X's. So what do you have looking from the top? You have 2 petite juries of 6 people each, which is illegal. The continuance of evidence of the peanut gallery are divided. So the jury is in a box, and JU means no law, and RY is contract. They are a no-law contract of an illusion. Henceforth, they have no value whatsoever. Never ask for a jury trial because a jury doesn't have a clue how to read and write above a 2nd grade reading level. That's why it's a no-law contract. Then the witness gets put into a witness box, which is an enclosed area, cannot see evidence or give testimony, to a jury box, which cannot see evidence or see testimony, to a judge that's on a plane, not even in the courtroom, as an actor in black robes, mourning justice. And justice, J-U, equals no law. S equals speak. T-I equals title. And C-E equals judge. This is Latin. Judge, title, speaks, no law. And what's the first word you guys do in your anger? There is a location. That's a positive word. Is a positive word. No is a negative word. Law is a dangling participle verb. So what happens? There is plus and plus, now pointing towards no to be positive, making law a negative, because no is still a negative. So therefore the word no law or fact shall be tried in court. By your own confessions, people, you go, there is no. There's no such thing as a no. Because you can't perform a negative condition of performance. But if you say there is no, what do I have in my hand? Nothing. You just made nothing a fact. Now I can prosecute you with nothing. Well, you just walked right into that trap. Don't feel bad. No one's ever gotten past it. Everyone steps in the trap. Let's see how close up attention you are. What is your name? No. I'm a judge. I said, what is your name? I just called you a what? Would it be easier? Would it be easier if I did this? Would it be easier if I did that? Now does that make sense? You see, this here is a period, folks. This isn't a question mark. That means, what is your name?
You see a question mark hanging above me?
Yeah. So, the answer to the question is, this is a pronoun. This is an adverb, this is an adverb, this is a verb. Even if you were to identify the word what to be your name, why am I calling you a verb? You don't exist as a dangling participle verb. The answer is, this is the answer to the question, what is your name? You identify syntax. You say, well, what is a pronoun? This is an adverb, yours is an adverb, and name is a verb. Can I see the correct sentence structure, communication, parsing, syntax, grammar for the avoidance of the perjury? The judge is going to go, okay, case dismissed. Please leave the courtroom. Bang, just like that. Don't care what you're there for. Because the traffic citation, anything he's got to say to you is a lie. You can always tell I'm lying to you. My lips are moving. Hey, it's a fact, folks.
So anytime you go through a stop sign and you get a ticket, you could use that argument in court.
Well, actually, I won a case. I said, Mr. Police Officer, would you please come up? He goes, yes. He says, you testified that I went through the stop sign. I said, you just said I went through the stop sign. I says, what does a stop sign look like? So 8 sides, painted red and white, made of metal. How do I occupy the same space as a stop sign? How can I go through it? As 2 objects can't occupy the same space at the same time. This is a fraudulent statement. And this is a pronoun, adverb, verb, adverb, adjective, pronoun. Can I see the correct sentence structure, communication, parsing, syntax, grammar for the avoidance of the perjury? Judge goes, you can't go through a stop sign. And yes, that is a correct statement. And yes, this is a fraudulent statement. And you committed fraud under Title 15, Section 1692E and Title 18, 1001. Fictitious conveyance of grammar and false and misleading statements. Case dismissed. Mr. Police Officer, you're going to be reprimanded. I want your supervisor in here, as you're going to have to learn how to use correct grammar. You see, these are all tricks and traps, little things that are hidden in plain view right in front of you. And all the little things that go on right in front of you that you don't even understand.
What is the significance of the $1 versus, let's say...
There are no fractions in federal law. Everything is a whole number. That's your answer.
So
That's
you can't
what.
use a 2-cent stamp.
No, you must use a $1 stamp or above. Must always be a whole number. Now, that's a good question. I'm going to switch gears here a little bit. When you read, now, you've been exposed to fiction grammar, but there's another thing that you don't see. It's called character spaces. All things went to computer now. No, wait, that's... yeah. My spacing is wrong. Okay, you're looking at a computer, and each one of these represent a character space, okay? Now, there's a rule in syntax, it's called the double space rule. If you are 2 spaces between words, you break the continuance of evidence. Okay? Now, here you're going along, you got space, 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 1/10, full space. This is actually 2 spaces now. So, when you say, I saw the cat, this is an adverb, verb. But there's 2 spaces missing here. So therefore, this is just a 2-word phrase, and this is a 2-word phrase. It's not 4 words. So therefore, watch your spacing. We have an attorney in Petersburg, Alaska, who uses 4 words, single spaced, 3 words, double spaced, in each sentence for 22 years. Last year, I caught him. We went back and looked at everything he wrote in 22 years. All identical. 4 and 3 on every sentence. Never wrote a legal contract in his entire life. And he was the prosecuting attorney and working for the city in Petersburg, Alaska, never lost a case. But then again, he never had a correct case, and so him and the judge were in and on together. Therefore, it's a conspiracy.
He knew what he was doing.
Exactly. There was no mistakes there. Wow. When I take your mortgage contracts and I identify all the parts of speech in 15 pages, and I show that there's not a single prepositional phrase, that this is a document with 5,000 syntax wrong words and 1,000 words that mean no contract, and therefore you have 6,000 mistakes and 5,000 words. This is like building a space shuttle to go to the moon. It's an engineering exercise on 64 million mortgages. When Lloyd's of London got a copy of this, they canceled 64 million title insurance policies in the United States. If I'm blowing smoke, then what's the world doing canceling the United States contracts across the board, shutting down the mortgage industry? And as Pandora, yes, I'm responsible personally for the entire collapse of the mortgage industry and why all of you are probably in foreclosure right now.
What does Bernanke's deal of $40 billion per month?
$40 billion, that's nothing.
Is that tied to this mortgage, to the syntaxing thing?
No, he's just trying to put a Band-Aid on something, saying we're going to buy up all your bad paper. Now, for the mortgage people, and this goes with that. Here's how the plan works. We have a document that's a fraud. And this is an autograph, this is a confession. As you know, the bank did not sign any of your mortgages. So therefore, you have what's called a unilateral contract, meaning one signer, which means it's not a contract. You are classified as a borrower or a trustor, ending the word in OR, making you responsible for what? A contract that's written in adverb verb and says nothing. You are responsible to pay back money to a contract that doesn't exist. All the money listed on the document is in a parentheses. So if we have quotation marks, a parentheses, square brackets, or we write in italics. Kind of bad. Or if we write on an angle called italics, it means it's removed from the paper and it's blank, which is the condition of all your cases. All right, so we have this document here, and this document says that the bank wants this from you. But he never signed it. So can I prosecute this individual? Well, I don't have a victim yet. You guys have become victims, but only after the fact. Those that are all current in your mortgage payments, you still are sitting on bad paper, but nobody's taking responsibility for it. You've paid, kept your mouth shut, the bank's kept their mouth shut, and you just keep paying. Well, that's cool. Your credit rating reflects that you have made a promise to give something back to somebody else, and you've kept your promise. It's just like a handshake. There's no written contract. This is not a written contract either, until I stand up in front of the court. Now, when the bank stands up in front of the court and says, I wrote this, I'm taking responsibility, I want that house, I now have a signed confession in front of a judge that they took responsibility. Now, it's my responsibility under Title 42, 1986, as a federal judge, to syntax this document and find out what it really says. What it really says is that the false and misleading information, fictitious conveyance of grammar, perjury, and deprivation of rights under coloring of the law was now a condition of criminal activity under Title 42, 1986. While engaged in criminal activity under Title 42, 1986, he had knowledge because there's 6,000 mistakes without any kind of modification. In other words, it's a perfect fraud. A perfect fraud because we're back into the no law or fact. And so now he's got this no law or fact document that he's confessed to. Well, from the first one that we did in January of 2008, which collapsed the entire mortgage industry and took the stock market from 14,000 down to 6 and back up again, and put everybody into your quandrum, why hasn't the bank foreclosed you after 90 days? Why didn't they just come out with the sheriff and kick you off the land? Well, that's because we still hadn't had the bankers stand up and say, I did this. So when he did that, he now had what he did was on the 90th day, he filed a Title 46, Chapter 16, Section 781 salvage claim on your land. They killed the Indians, they stole the land, they sold it to an unsuspecting buyer back in 1800, and it hasn't been, or 1834, and hasn't been corrected to this date, and so the word is ailing, A-I-L-I-N-G. Comes from the word failing, with a square bracket around it. Better known as the Federal Rules of Civil Procedure 12b-6. Now, every one of you that have ever worked with me, the first thing that the lawyer does is he failed to state a claim. Okay, what that says is pronoun, adverb, future time, verb, adverb, verb, which means you didn't use a verb in your document. You actually sued them with correct facts, using forensic evidence with a signed confession from the bank who stood up and said, I wrote this. Now, I have permission as a federal judge under Title 42, 1986 to prosecute this individual for false and misleading information. So, all the people that have filed these lawsuits since January 2008, they're stonewalled. We want more information. We want interrogatories. We want affidavits. We want a smoking gun. We want. The point is, the word interrogatory, INT, means no contract. Affidavit, AFF, vowel two consonants, means no contract. We want no contract. We want you to participate in nonsense for 3.5 years of no contract to keep you into a verb fiction. Which means as long as you say nothing about nothing, you can't prosecute nothing with nothing. Which part of no don't you understand, the N or the O? Okay. Now that this fraud has been perpetrated, we go ahead and say, well, I have the signed confession here, and the bank won't settle, and the court won't settle. They're going like, well, the lawyers all, both sides, want more and more information. Well, in the U.S. Attorney's Office in California, they said, well, we've got to find out who wrote this. I says, well, first off, this is owned by a corporation. A corporation is a dead entity, just like this piece of paper is a dead entity. Is a vessel in dry dock. Even though you have a president and a vice president, a director of a corporation, who is this individual? He is not a living, thinking entity. He is a corporate trustee. Trustees are created by paper documents. There is no living person to look at. You only have a machine run by a set of rules and regulations. That machine creates the trustee and tells the trustee what to do. But all the language is written in fiction. So what is the subjective interpretation of nothing? Well, at some point here, we have to come to a settlement. So how do we get these people how do we get the machine, the corporation, to sit down and confess to a U.S. Attorney's office that, yeah, we're responsible, yeah, this was engineered as a lie, yeah, somebody's got to pay. Well, the fine is $25 million times 64 million homes. That's $400 trillion. That's pretty big check to write. The United States Treasury is $17 trillion in debt. The United States Treasury might be $17 trillion in debt, but the United States banking industry has stolen $700 trillion from the United States Treasury in the last 84 years. So what do they do with all that money? Where's it sitting? Well, it's sitting offshore. It's sitting in trusts. It's accumulating interest. And the bank owes the United States government $400 trillion. That's according to just for the mortgages. That's only for 64 million mortgages. That's not counting all the industry, corporations, licensing bureaus, Department of Transportation, and everything else. So this is a really big number, probably $1,000 trillion. Point is, we're only going to deal with the mortgages right now. So I said to the bank, I says, well, the U.S. Attorney though says we can't get past, we've been in court 3.5 years now and we can't move forward. They want more and more and more information. I says, all right, would you like me to settle this? The guy says, no one's been able to settle it. What are we going to do? I says, I'll fix it. So I made a deal with Chase, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, and Citibank. Brought all the boys in. Sat down and said, hey, you know, guys, you wrote this. I syntexed it. I have a signed confession in my hand. He says, well, we didn't sign it. There's no signature under. I says, yeah, but you stood up in court and you held it up and said, I want your house. When you did that, you confessed. And I've got all of your confessions. Because, after all, I have a lawsuit that says here you want their house for not paying the bill. So therefore, you held this up and confessed to it. Now I have a signature signed in front of a judge. And now you're liable. We can't pay that. You'll bankrupt all the courts. All the banks will go bankrupt. Not true. Okay, in this hand here, you've got a $25 million check. Now you're going to confess that you wrote this. You're going to pay $25 million to the Justice Department. The Justice Department is going to get $17.5 million of the penalty, and the whistleblower is going to get $7.5 million for every one of these confessions. Then the whistleblower is going to sign a contract. He's going to get $500,000 in cash. Well, that'll be negotiated anywhere from $500,000 to, say, $2.5 million, depending on what you need, how big your family is, what your liabilities are. That's negotiable. But the initial thing was $500,000. Okay? Now we've got $7 million left over. And you have to buy a $7 million CD at the bank that just screwed you, who paid a $25 million judgment to the government. What happens when you buy the $7 million CD? They get to fraction bank it at 10-1, making $70 million and selling it to MasterCard at 18% interest. And in 9 months, the $25 million is all paid back in interest to MasterCard. The bank goes, we're going to make excuse my French, a shit house of money. And the bank, 10 days later, walked into Kamala Harris's office and said, we got a check here for $26 billion. We'd like to settle this lawsuit. And all the homeowners get paid. March 6, 2012. 10 days after I met with the banks in Oceanside, California. Now that they had a remedy, the banks Kamala Harris got $19 billion. The United States government immediately took $7 billion, stuck it into the Treasury in the state of California. Kamala Harris then had to hire a staff of individuals, screen out the applications, get all the forms worked, the paperwork done. I have those with me, by the way, for those that need the forms. That are involved with lawsuits with me right now. And the bank is waiting for their redeposit of the $70 million for every $25 million they paid out on. And this is I have all 50 federal attorney generals and 1,000 staff members, which are all assistant attorney generals, working with me on this. Now, they are hiring 3,000 more attorneys to work with the U.S. Attorney's Office to process 22 million foreclosures in the United States. When you divide 22 million by 4,000 attorneys, that's going to take a while, especially with all the paperwork involved. It's going to result in an $8 trillion a year windfall for a government that functions on $2 trillion a year and only collects $500 billion a year in revenue from the IRS, from taxes. So this is a 16-to-1 payback with my technology. Who am I? I am the cash cow of the United States Treasury. Why do they leave me alone? Why do they let me do what I do? It's because the United States government would not exist after 1997 if it wasn't for me. I paid off the last national debt in 16 months. They were $8 trillion in debt. They not only paid it back, but on November 2nd, 1999, we had $6 trillion surplus in the United States Treasury, entering the third international bankruptcy. And so now, as of last week, we were $17 trillion in debt. With this technology, it's affecting everything. And every single lawsuit, yesterday, Bank of America wrote a check for $2.46 billion for false and misleading information on the wording for the contract for the Bank of America Employees Pension Fund. Biggest single settlement in the Bank of America in the United States pension history. But that is trivia compared to the 25 or the 26 billion that was written in California to settle the cases, and the 74 billion that has currently been paid out to date on the $400 billion lawsuit, which is at the New York Securities and Exchange Commission for false and misleading information to sell bad mortgages to the Securities and Exchange with a second-grade reading level. Henceforth, this document. But under the Clayton Act, they're going for 4 times damages of $1.6 trillion against the banks. This is just the first 1%. 1% of the 22 million cases that are out there. There's a 3% bottleneck in the United States court system. It will take 30 years to go through the 22 million foreclosures. That's why they've hired it. They want to bring this down to 10 years instead of 30 years. Question?
I'm just curious on you mentioned $7 million going to the CD.
You get the interest off it on a yearly basis besides your 5. Just like you win the lottery, you get the interest from the lottery for 20 years. The state keeps the initial chunk of money that you just won, $300 million, and you get the interest off it. It's more money than you can spend within reason against paying for all your toys that you would fantasize for any individual. And it keeps, there really isn't any money around out there. Everything's got to be working. Interest is a working condition of money. So every time they have a problem, they come to me saying, here's the information, sort it out. And it takes me just a couple seconds because I've been doing this since 1997 when I issued new money in the United States.
So does that go on indefinitely, or is there a time frame that will stop?
There will always be a condition of foreclosure. There will always be people in bad luck. There will always be, the new contracts, however, have to be written in a new parsé syntax grammar.
I'm referring to the $7 million CD that I get personally.
No, that'll be just a 10-year contract. 10-year. Okay. That you'll have a one-time payout at the end of 10 years. That'll give them a time they may bill out MasterCard at, I think it's currently is 14.6%, giving you a 7% commission off of that. 7 times 7 is 49, so that's a $500,000 a year for 10 years on top of that, and then a windfall of 7 at the end, which would be reasonable. The bank makes $70 million off the top of that at a 10-to-1 fraction, where they're only paying you paying you the face value of 7, but actually collecting on 63 million all the interest. See?
Give me time to gear up and get used to the cash flow before I get.
Yeah, I'm sure McDonald's will appreciate you. Yes.
Well, basically, with that all being said, then these banks, they're not going to fight.
Right. In other words, the banks will say, "Oh, you finally caught me. Okay, yeah, I confess. No prison, and we're going to go ahead and negotiate this plan. You guys win. The federal government gets $17.5 million. They win. The IRS, now, everyone, you're entitled to your minimum wage, $8 an hour. You work 8,700 hours a year on your property to guard the home and the farm. At minimum wage, that's $87,400 a year for the husband and the wife. Anybody on title. Times the amount of years you've owned the property. And under the Clayton Act, it's 4 times that. Then your down payment on the property, if you refinanced, the value of the house you put up for the refinance is the down payment times 4. So it's not a $500,000 property. It was refinanced at 7. The $500,000 value that was refinanced now becomes 4 times at $2 million. So we're talking about a few extra bucks here. Okay, this is taxable income. This goes to, you have your caretaker fees. Then you have 4 times your damages. Now, the Rescissions Act stipulates under Title 15, Section 1636A, that you must give a 3-day notice that you're going to engage in a false and misleading mortgage contract with only one person signing. That didn't happen in all 22 million or 64 million foreclosures. And the Title 15, Section 1639A stipulates that if they didn't stop and correct the mistake within 3 years of the mortgage refinance, that they are liable to return all the interest to you since the first day. And under the rescissions, under the Clayton Act, you get 4 times the interest paid in. Those you can pull off your IRS forms that you filed with the taxes. These numbers are then calculated by you. Let's see here. And this is the form that the United States government created. Well, it's not the real form. This form was originally written in adverb verb. The form was because you are filing quantum lawsuits to get paid because you have forensic evidence of fraudulent grammar and fraud that's been perpetrated on you. This was also engineered as a fraud so the United States government could keep all of the money, because on the bottom here it says under Title 15, Section 1692E, if you use false and misleading information on this document, you now are vacating your position to collect. And Title 18, 1001, fictitious conveyance of grammar. So if you file a quantum in this hand but file a false claim on this hand, you vacate this claim and you don't get paid anything, and the government gets to keep the whole $25 million for themselves. So I syntaxed this and wrote a brand new form in quantum grammar using the correct parse syntax grammar and filled in all the spaces with the correct parse syntax grammar. Now, if I ask you a question, what is the address of your property? ADD, no rest, which means I just said, what is your no contract property? And you answer me. Therefore, you've stepped onto a landmine. If I ask you, what is the location? If I made the statement, for the location of the property is with the claim of the claimant. That's a correct statement. Now I gave you a location and I made you a claimant. Gold miners didn't file mortgages. They didn't file deeds of trust. They filed claims for their property. And gold was an authority. So therefore, I quantumized this in now time to match your quantumized lawsuit as a quantumized claim. United States attorney's office got this. We have a collection agency with Tyrone, Tyrone, Williams out of Arkansas. Now, the first 4 collection agencies that we had hired were threatened with concrete overshoes. They dropped out. Tyrone Williams was also approached with the same argument. So I intervened. I said to the U.S. Attorney's Office, this is quantum. You're going to get $17.5 million for every lawsuit I wrote. Based on 4 times damages, the average person is going to get $3 million. The government's going to take 1.5 for the IRS. Trustees are going to be paid. Anybody in bankruptcy right now, the bankruptcy trustee is going to be presented with this formula. The bankruptcy trustee is going to see that, one, you're going to get a windfall of $7 million, or whatever. In the case of bankruptcy, you will get a check to discharge all your debts, pay off everything. And whatever's left over will wind up being refinanced this way, plus whatever monies you need to be comfortable. This over here goes to the IRS. I don't know about the IRS liability of this, but if you add this to this, the average lawsuit I write is a $20 million windfall for the United States government. Now the judge says to me, we're going to dismiss this. This is gobbledygook. This makes no sense whatsoever. I said to the judge, I says, you know, Your Honor, I'm here in Honolulu, Hawaii. There's a judge in front of Judge Kern. They got 22 people here. I'm a claimant in all the lawsuits. I says, $25 million a pop, plus $3 million for the IRS. That's $28 million a pop. I says, I don't know what your pay grade is. I says, but you start costing the government $28 million for every person sitting here, times 22, that's $1.4 billion. You're not going to have a job very long. I recuse myself. Well, before I get kind of getting ahead there. After I said that to him, he says, who are you? How dare you talk to me like that? I held up my oath of office and says, I'm the Chief Federal Judge of the Hawaiian Islands, and I believe I have a warrant for your arrest over here. And right then and there, he recuses himself and he walks out of the courtroom. Well, in comes another judge, Kobayashi. I want appearances. So I gave my name, and first thing out of my mouth was, I says, I saw you standing in the door, so I heard you. I know you heard what what Judge Kern just heard. I says, and I looked at my list and says, I believe I have a warrant for your arrest. And he ran out of the courtroom too. Then Judge Mulloway, she's the Chief Federal Judge of District Court in Hawaii. She comes walking in. I know you don't have an arrest warrant for me, she says. She says, because I was appointed by President Obama just last year. I says, oh, fair enough, you know. I'm still the Chief Federal Judge here, and you're a District Court Judge. I says, oh, by the way, I have your oath of office here. It's written in adverb verb, so therefore you're not a Chief Federal Judge. You're not any kind of a judge. You're just an actor in black robes. I don't care who you are. I don't care what person's name is in this courtroom. If David Miller's name is on there, I want you in this courtroom on April 12th, 2012, at 9 o'clock in the morning. So all 22 of us showed up on April 12th, 9 o'clock, and I walked in the courthouse and got 6 marshals standing in front of me. Judge Miller, do you have your credentials? I says, yep, here's my oath of office, here's my warrants. Are you here to arrest our judges? I'm going, no, I'm just here to go to court. I've got a 9 o'clock appointment upstairs. He says, would you guys like to come with me? He says, well, yeah. He says, we're going to have to. He says, we have orders to accompany you when you enter the building for everyone's protection. He says, who are all these other people? I says, oh, they all were ordered to be here, along with all the attorneys and all the mortgage companies. He says, well, you're the only ones here. What's this all about? I says, I put a 15-month freeze on all the foreclosures in the Hawaiian Islands. And 5 of the 6 marshals were in foreclosure. And I all shook my hand going, oh, thank you for not having us kicked out of our home. So they were all in my. I said, would you guys like to come upstairs with me? So we all tiptoed upstairs in Kern's office. We go walking in. And as soon as I walked in the door, Judge runs out of the courtroom because I got a warrant for his arrest. And I walk up to the clerk and says, well, we're here. Where's Mulloway? He ordered us to be here. And he says, oh, I'll go check. Runs in the back room. There's a whole bunch of screaming going on back there. The clerk comes out all red in the face, and he goes like, the judge has ordered the courthouse closed and ordered his courtroom closed, and everyone is ordered to vacate the building. I says, well, where's Judge Mulloway? You got to go down to the clerk's office and find out. I says, well, the judge just ordered the courthouse closed. So the 6 marshals and I, we go down to the clerk's office, and I have a order opening the court up, ordering with me. I was prepared for all this. I walk to the clerk, says, I'm ordering the courthouse open as chief federal judge. He stamps it, signs it, and I sign it. I said, by the way, where is everybody? Well, the phone's over there, go call. So I called the chief judge's secretary, and she picks up. She says, all the judges in the courthouse are on a plane flying to San Francisco. Judge Kerner is the only judge in the courthouse, and he ordered the courthouse closed, which is illegal. Can't shut down the federal government. So right then and there, I says, all the judges committed treason, vacated their posts, and left the country because they're in international space. So now we got a new complicated lawsuit that I'm putting together. So every time I show up in Honolulu, it's World War III, you know. It's so these forms were critiqued so that they match your quantum lawsuits, so that you have. I've taken all the precautions necessary so that your language is correct. I took all the boxes off the paperwork, so there's no boxes. The only thing, when the judge, when somebody asks you a question, like, what is the location of your property? Well, you have to have all the words defined, which is in the lawsuit. You have to have your name and address to be legal as far as understanding what an ownership of location is. That's in the lawsuit. You have to have a cause and effect as to why you have ownership and why the bank doesn't. That's in the lawsuit. Because possession is 9 points of the law, and no one ever gave you a legitimate contract, and you've been the caretaker, trustee, and guardian of the property, which puts you on it, and there is no contract. And I mean the word no is an adverb, making contract to be a verb, which is an adverb fiction. So there is no paper in existence on planet Earth that says you do not own the property as being the original settler on the property. As the American Indians, even though we know the military moved them off, didn't have writing. They didn't have treaties. There has never been a correct parsing, syntax, grammar contract written for that object, and because you are the only person on it, under the maritime law of salvage, are the only people that have ever existed as original owners. Do you have a mortgage? The answer is no. Do you have a debt? The answer is no. Do you own the land? The answer is yes, because possession is 9 points until somebody can show you a correct parsing, syntax, grammar contract that says otherwise. So if the world of fiction wants to play the world of fiction, that's one thing. But when Iceland got a hold of this, Iceland forgave all the mortgages in Iceland back in March this year, rather than pay $25 million a pop to Wall Street. So everyone's title clear in Iceland now, even though it's a very small country. You can bring a lawsuit against the bank with the existing contract that you have right now and follow the procedures of suing for false and misleading information. Excuse me. On the contract and showing where the bank had Lodial, L-O-D-I-A-L, title to the property. If you're the only person standing and nobody has claim to it and you're on the property, under 1 year moratorium, technically you own the property. If you...
Are you saying you have to live there 1 year?
Yeah, you'd have to be there 1 year under 1 year damage claim. That no one's ever filed a damage claim against you for false and misleading information. Okay? No. Now, there's a numbering, this is a numbering system. There's only 5 patterns of numbers in the entire world of fiction. And once you memorize these numbers, there's an old rule maybe most of you are familiar with, Sherlock Holmes. Everyone know the name? Okay. Sherlock Holmes says When you remove all the things that cannot be possible, what are left, however irrelevant you believe them to be, are the facts. The point is, when we apply this same philosophy to the world of fiction, we actually come up with the facts.
Is the reason all these oaths are irrelevant or wrong because the corporation took over the United States government in that time?
They have to maintain a condition of zero. The word comes from the word alien, remember? Alien means corruption from the beginning. We killed the Indians, stole the land, sold it to an unsuspecting buyer. Simple as that. All right, because they were corrupt in the way they conducted themselves, took over this country, bastardized grammar for 8,500 years, they have to have one condition of contract. And that contract must be in fiction at all times. You can never prosecute an individual for nothing. You can never prove nothing. You can do nothing wrong with nothing. So, which part of no don't you understand, the N or the O? And, you know, when you look at this, for you to go ahead and say, all right, anybody feel like a pronoun today? I. Where's your condition of contract? For the I? Why isn't there a name here? What it should say is for the person's first name and second name with the punctuated words. With the knowledge of a contract, not appointed. He has to sign a contract. I mean, why would he do the oath? He believes the oath is a contract, but here he's taken a position that he was appointed. Today it's mandatory that anybody that's a county sheriff has a 4-year college degree in criminology. 30, 40 years ago, it was anybody could say, okay, you're the sheriff, put on a uniform, put a badge on, carry a gun, hold up your hand, and that was it. What constitutes the fact of a judge or anybody that's an officer of the court? It's only your presumption. Don't forget, you've left Indiana, you've entered a foreign vessel in dry dock, and you speak Babel. Everyone has a second-grade reading, an attorney or a lawyer, and just put a 1 on top of every the on the paper, and the letter A and the letter an. And who stands with lodial title at 9 points of the law of possession with no contract written in the correct parse, syntax, grammar to say you don't own your property? You get clear title. 900 homes in Chicago were then, on March of last year in 2011, June 2011, 900 homeowners were awarded $7.5 million each at a $0.5 million check written by Bank of America, given back their homes, and all expenses for moving in and out for 3 months were paid for by the Bank of America. It cost them $8.5 billion. And that's for only 900 houses. That was all over CNN, yes.
So what does that mean in terms of being taxed on the property?
Taxes still pay for the policemen, the firemen. It's called bailment, B-A-I-L-M-E-N-T. It's a bailment manager. You will be the trustee of your property. No one owns property in the United States. You are only trustees. In other words, the guardian of the land. The people, right now, you're the last person standing on the property. So the new information that you're going to get will identify you to be a factual trustee, but show me a second trustee who has a better contract that is timely than yours to be who you are at this point in time and now time. I write quantum trusts. I write the only quantum trusts in the United States. They have never been broken. They've been taken in the federal court and challenged. The federal court throws them out, saying you can't bring those documents here. We're a fiction. These are factual documents. You don't have copyright infringement capabilities of entering into these trusts. The trusts are factual holding trusts. You can't do banking with a quantum trust. You can have a second trust if you want, or do something with an ordinary checking account. But a trust is no more than a holding position of a quantum mortgage, a quantum contract on your land to describe it. A quantum trust is a trust that identifies you to be a trustee, and you are instructed to do specific duties within the confinements of that trust as far as management goes. But you can never enter a world of fiction with a quantum trust, because fact and fiction can never meet. People who want to buy trusts from me, I will not sell them a trust. if they don't know quantum language, for one thing. And if they think they're going to use it for something that's not legal, I'm not also going to give you a trust for that. You don't have any amount of money you can give me. I'm financially independent. I make all the money I need. I'm financially set for life. I can't be bought, sold, traded, or anything else. I've had lawyers walk up to me with a suitcase with $2 million and say, here, go on vacation. Stop bothering us. I'm going like, I day trade that. I said, I've lost that in a day. That don't mean anything to me. I don't have adrenaline, so I don't get emotion. Yeah.
So what I hear you saying is that I can't use this quantum trust to interact with the banking and the...
No.
Can I hold other objects other than my real estate property?
Let's say if you have any object that you wish that is paid for in cash that has no adhesive contract in fiction due to somebody else, you can create an identity of that contract and put it into the trust, like personal belongings in a household, for instance. You can put an automobile in there, a tractor, farm equipment. By the way, all of your automobiles titles are owned by the United States government. You are only trustees to operate the vehicles under public safety law. Myself, I'm the same way. I have been in court. I have written the lawsuits. I have made the mistakes. I've been through all these stupid things, all the landmines that you can step on, I stepped on and survived to stand up here and say, don't go there. Don't do it. When I write a lawsuit for you in quantum grammar under the document, contract, federal, postal, vessel, because paper is a vessel, federal court venue, don't go into the United States District Court and talk to these people. They are a fiction. They are a foreign vessel. You are not in Indiana. You are in the Indiana territory. Stay in your territory. In 48 days, we will file a fault judgment because if they don't sign the contract, I have a contract to dock my correct vessel as the correct court, as the correct judge, and the clerk of the court now becomes the correct judge. In the event that clerk will not sign the correct document and be part of that, it goes to the U.S. Attorney's Office, goes to the Attorney General's office, who then will prosecute the case under the False Claims Act for forensic evidence. You'll get your money. Then it goes to your labor, goes to Tyrone Williams in Arkansas, who is working with the Attorney General and the IRS as our collection agency, because they want their $1.5 million for every lawsuit I write. And we're going to pay out next week on these. So this is a real thing that's really happening, and we have cooperation from over 1,000 attorney generals across the United States, both attorneys and assistants. Yes? Yeah, I was told last week Monday that we got 10 days till payout, which is next week. So, if yours went in before March 6th, you'd be in that group. Okay. The ones that we filed were dated for the last 3.5 years, which were settled on March 6, 2012 in California. And those are the groups that are being paid out right now. And they have a continuous rotation now that each one of the quantum cases that comes in is a signed confession. The bank's already confessed that these are legitimate, so they will be paid as fast as they come in or negotiated. Yes?
I have a couple questions on for one, on the mortgage fraud suit. I think you indicated that we were supposed to initially send that to ourselves, registered mail, to get the corporation number.
Your corporation number was sent on your fault judgment. It's already been filed for you. I did it. Everybody that has cases in here with me, your cases have already been filed registered mail. I have your serial numbers. They're in my book. If you don't have a copy of it, if you physically do not have a copy of it, I have it stuck in my book.
Okay. Yeah, ours was blank.
Right. But you would fill those in after the fact. But I have copies of those already, and they're registered. All 64 million mortgages in the United States were set up by the banking industry to be a fraud, established in 1934 to be harvested. When the year of Jubilee ended, the anywhere from 6 to 9 page documents that were used prior to that were all null and void. And in the 2nd of February 2000, a new contract was issued by the United States Department of Housing and bankers from the post office and was standardized throughout the United States. There are variables between private investors and the industry and the National Banking Association. There's a slight variables. They had to follow the same criterias, but I have 38 different copies of banks that I've done. So what's happening is I've syntaxed all of the 38 different mortgages. They take about 40 hours a piece to syntax. And then I match them up to make sure that everything is, and it's already been recertified by college professors and university professors and U.S. attorneys' offices all over the United States, as this guy knows what he's doing. This is a math procedure. This thing cannot be defeated. It's been tested in 150 languages in every country of the world. It's been proven to be an original program from A to Z. The website, my books, all original, no plagiarizing. I know of 3 people that tried to plagiarize and charge people $1,500 to come to a seminar to mimic my website, talk about the videos on my website, and then sell postal badges to people for $2,200, thinking they wouldn't have to pay taxes.
Do I literally just copy everything, or do I have to apply a new stamp and
Oh, no, that you have to do. You have to put a new stamp on any new thing. Do not photocopy postage stamps. Postage stamps are legal money. You get caught photocopying postage stamps. That's counterfeiting. That's serious. So don't do that, please. Just for your own public, for your safety, because then you're going to be. The government makes photocopies and they keep it electronically held in the computer, but that's Title 18, Section 1343, mail fraud, wire fraud, to copy a lawsuit and put it into a computer. They have to maintain my lawsuits bonded together as a hard copy paper in the chief judge's vault. It's not even allowed to be filed in the record room. You can go file and come back tomorrow and say, we don't know who you are, you weren't here. That's because the chief judge has it, and they assign a new case number. They take and they put another United States District Court paper over our heading, and they photocopy it into the computer, so if anybody comes looking, which would be an attorney or a judge or a lawyer, that they're only going to see the United States District Court bringing you into their fiction under a brand new case number. Don't touch it. It's not your name. It's not your case number. It's not your venue. It's not your grammar. You've got 48 days. They don't do it right, we sue them for fault. Done deal. Attorney General takes it because they're getting $20 million a pop off of these pocket money. So they're not playing games. They're going after the people after the fact. And all of a sudden, like that judge, all of a sudden, you don't work here anymore. Where'd he go? They don't want to advertise that judges can be prosecuted or are going to disappear into the woodwork because of false and misleading statements, because they don't want the criminals, the real criminals, the drug dealers, the bank robbers, the murderers, to know how to get out of trouble. Okay? I don't do those. Yes, go ahead.
You had made a comment earlier. When we get these stamps, when we file the claim,
yeah,
we're supposed to sign it
right
over the stamp?
Well, you use your autograph, yes.
What happens if we didn't do that?
Well, I did it. I'm the federal judge on your case, so I have the authority on there. But as far as personally, you should autograph that stamp, making you a postmaster, banker, and judge of your own claim to bring it to the attention. So whatever documents you still are in possession of at home, autograph those. Fingerprint is a notary. Do not go to a notary. That's a fiction. Use your index finger or your thumb. And that is your notary on your autograph, like what you've got there.
He was talking about right here, signing right here. Is that what we should sign?
Oh, across their stamp?
Yeah.
Oh, whether you do or don't, that isn't going to change your authority. Yeah, no, as long as you signed your postage stamp there, that's the legal one.
Okay.
Because that's not an imitation.
I thought you was applying it to their stamp.
I signed that stamp because I'm a federal judge,
Okay.
and I I'll walk in there and say, hey, I signed your stamp. I'm a federal judge here, same as I am on my vessel. So I can trump their ability to move paper from one jurisdiction to another. Question?
When we sign across the file here, do we have to take our ink in and
I do. Usually when you're in front of the clerk, she doesn't have a stamp, or don't have a stamp pad. We carry stamp pads when I go to court.
take that in and use our fingerprint?
If nothing else, lick your finger and do it. You got DNA, fingerprint, and autograph. That's a triple certification. Okay, that's another thing. One is an opinion, folks. So if one of you stands up and says something, it's an opinion. 2 is a certification. Now you got to be certified. That's legal. 3 is an authorization. That gets to move things. 4 more is a class action. You need 16 or more to bring attention to the Attorney General, which we have, I think we've got over 16 cases now in Indiana. So the Indiana State Attorney General can get involved. Right now, Kamala Harris in California is the Attorney General that is working with because she's got over 100 of these now. And so they were able to use a class action and go to the different banks and say, here's all the lawsuits, the syntaxing on every one of them is identical. They may be 38 different banks, and the sentences may be A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and they may have moved the sentences around, but all the same sentences appear someplace with that exact phraseology. And when you do an overlay of the whole thing, we account for 99% of every one to be identical, but the modification of the grammar with the math codes, you can flip these things and read 300 words a second, and in 15 seconds go through a 15-page document and say, this has got 5,000 mistakes on it, and that isn't a mistake. That's not a misspelled word. That's engineered. And in 2 places of the document, it says, false and misleading statements is a criminal penalty, and a misspelled word doesn't change the document. There are no misspelled words. The syntax is wrong in all 5,000 words. It's engineered. It's not a mistake. Now, there's a thing called the McNulton rule. That's M apostrophe N. McNulton. N-A-G. I think that's how it's spelled. It's the very first word under the letter M in Black's Law Dictionary, 4th, 5th, and 6th, 7th, and 8th editions. It doesn't appear before that because the McNulton rule came out in 1966, and Black's 4th edition was published in 1968. That's why it's in the 4th. If you've got anything earlier, it won't show up. Okay, what is the McNulton rule? It's called the right-wrong rule. The right-wrong rule means if you have knowledge of a lie, perjury, false and misleading statements, or fictitious conveyance of grammar, and you do it, that means you're guilty. If you don't know you've done it, then you can't be held liable for it. Like a police officer standing up and say, I saw you go through a stop sign. But the way he said it, the grammar was wrong. So he doesn't understand syntax because he was never trained in it. But the fact that you went through a stop sign, if you can make an argument of physics, 2 objects can't occupy the same space, it'll get thrown out. But if you said you failed to stop for a sign, and then you rolled past the sign, or you rode through the intersection without stopping, using the correct grammar, then you'd be found guilty, okay? Because he's a professional witness. And after all, you would be in a fiction court, and 99.99% of the people wouldn't even know they're being hoodwinked by syntax in the first place if you didn't know how to speak in the correct format. So the McNulton rule, the judge stands up and says, and Banks stood up and said, for 3.5 years, I don't know anything about this. The lawyers wrote this for us. The lawyers work for the corporate. The corporate is a machine. The machine says, we're looking for a person. A person is a corporation. We're looking for a human being. We're looking for a thinking person. The thinking person doesn't exist. So what do we have? We have a corporation with a signed confession, because this corporation stood up and said, I'm responsible for this, give me the house. And then I have a signed confession for false misleading statements, and I can do my job and you can get paid. Pretty simple. And when they, under the McNaughton rule, they did this a few times, and they got away with it. And then I said to them, you know, doing something 6,000 times to perfection is not a misspelled word. That's a perfection of engineering. And you can't stand up and say you did something 6,000 times and didn't understand what you were doing. That ain't going to wash with any jury. And I got my conviction. They confessed, and we've already picked up $140 billion in damages since March 6th, just to show you how effective I am. The judgments on my technology are the biggest in recorded history anywhere on the planet. And I'm the cash cow for the bank, for the government, for the post office, and for the people. Everybody likes me. Even the criminals love me. Because they're going like, if I get into trouble, I'm going to call Dave. So nobody bothers me. Go ahead.
When we file for the second one, after you say after the 48 days, it's got to be 48 at least.
Yes.
48 to what? What if you don't get on 48 days, like 50 something?
Oh, you got a year to file after, so don't worry about, that's as fast as you can file your fault. You're going to take your quo warranto complaint and your fault document contract claim, and you're going to send it to the Attorney General to the attention of the Indiana False Claims Act Task Force.
Sent in by a third party?
No, by you. You only got to do the first servicing with an independent party for the quo warranto. After that, you can take care of all your own filings. You'll be given that form along with instructions of who to contact. Okay? So I've got all this covered. These forms just came out the 28th of August. Today is the 24th of September, so they've only been on the market for 4 weeks. You will not have a trial date for the document, contract, federal, postal, vessel at all.
Okay, I'm talking about the...
Bankruptcy?
No,
the other criminal side. Okay. The criminal, when that takes place, I'm a claimant on your case. I'm a claimant on all your cases that I've written. That means you can put me on the phone and I can testify by phone. My question to the prosecuting attorney is, can you produce the law, rule, regulation, or code written with the correct parse, syntax, grammar for the avoidance of perjury? I've syntaxed the lawsuit. I've syntaxed the DA, the indictment. It's physical evidence that have been supplied to you. Your lawsuit should be turned over to the Attorney General in Indianapolis or in South Bend, Indiana, where you have your federal courts, as this individual at the state level is creating an illusion by which he is trying to say there's a law that doesn't exist to prosecute me under the McNaughton rule. And you invoke the McNaughton rule under the right-wrong, showing why this person under Title 42, 1986, for knowledge of the correct parse, syntax, grammar, stop and correct his own paperwork to do it correct. If you have a complaint against me, then use correct grammar. Show me where the Congress, the Senate, the legislature, and the Supreme Court of the state of Indiana has created a law, rule, regulation, or code that is in the correct grammar by which I've violated. Doesn't exist. I'll tell you that right now. So don't pretend like you understand what they say. The answer to any question is, can I see that in the correct parse, syntax, grammar for the avoidance of the perjury? And I don't care how many times you got to say it. Do it for an hour. You got 50 questions, repeat it 50 times.
Repeat that again. Can I see?
Okay.
So if you have an order from the judge to produce or whatever,
The word order is spelled how? O-R-D, a vowel, 2 consonants? No contract?
So you just ignore it or not?
There. You can repeat that sentence to anything that fiction has to say to you, and in most cases will vacate the case within that one sentence.
even when they ask me for my name?
We did that already. What is your name? Now, he's going to say, well, arrest the nom de guerre, uppercase spelling, which is a dead person, name assigned to your driver's license, because it identifies you as a nom de guerre dead person. and as a citizen, you have your state ID as a nom de guerre identity, henceforth putting you in the jurisdiction, but you've already entered the courthouse. So therefore, you left Indiana. You now are in the state of Indiana, which is the name of the courthouse, as a foreign vessel in dry dock controlled by the port authorities. While on that vessel, you have now trespassed, and no matter what you're there for, you're in a trespassing position, unless you have a United States passport and you have your paperwork filed ahead of time with the clerk of the court in possession of the stamp, put my business card on with a flag on it, a stamp, and you would then become a postmaster under the correct parse, syntax, grammar, advertised with your contract to say, I have a contract here with the correct parse, syntax, grammar. This individual sitting next to me, who would be the DA, doesn't. So therefore, you're in a superior position. Because you signed a stamp, you now become the federal court judge in that plane, because that's a federal flag on a federal plane. You have a federal stamp and a federal flag on your paperwork, and you're wearing a federal flag. So how does a state court in fiction, where the judge isn't on your plane, now capture you? Your position then is to turn to the bailiff and say, I deputize you as my tip staff, stand to attention. I have a federal oath, and you can if you had one of my oaths and had the knowledge, you could back that up. I can back it up. But I'm also a sovereign. I'm also granted a sovereign's country, the director of my own country through the United Nations. As the condition of state in a world of fiction is so unique that the United Nations had to make me the 200th member of the United Nations. I don't pay a $1.6 million a year fee to the United Nations, because how does a fact contract with a fiction? But the fiction still has to recognize that the condition of state does exist in quantum. Henceforth, I exist as a sovereign condition of state amongst a world of fiction, and I'm recognized by the fiction not to touch. But to be a teacher, as a plenipotentiary judge, to go out in the world and do so, as an ambassador contracted with 82 countries, have diplomatic immunity to that end. So once I got that, they locked the door behind me. I'm the only guy that does it. They gave me that position, and I've been completely honorable and trustworthy to that position and responsible. And it's published all over the world, and it's respected by the other countries. And that's why the Justice Department and the State Department and the judges around the world are hands off. This guy is who he says he is.
So what is the paperwork that I have to have filed in the court?
That Constitution is like an oath of office. But to have an oath as a judge responsible only to your piece of paper that you have signed that stamp on, and file an additional oath with that, with the clerk of the courts. It says you will only be responsible to be a federal judge on your own personal document for the correct parse, syntax, grammar. And as a judge, you're immune from prosecution. But you have to be correct at all times. If you don't know what to say, don't talk an adverb verb. Say nothing. You've got your paperwork, speaks for you. 2 plus 2 doesn't equal 4. If you write it on paper, I can see what it equals up to. But if you're going to get me into an oral argument with 150 variables, you ain't going to win. It's nonsense. So don't even go there. Or 4 plus 4 equals 8. FOR plus FOUR equals ATE. Or ATE and EAGHT equals ATE. I mean, we can do this all day long. Did you hear what I said, what I meant, what I said, what I said, what I meant, what I said? It says, you want her to sign right here, is that correct? Under penalty of perjury? You know that under is an adverb, means no contract. Of penalty, which is a verb. Of is an adverb, making perjury a verb. You want to show me the verb perjury and penalty in the dictionary? Isn't that false and misleading information? Isn't that perjury by your own confession? And then I syntaxed in the next 35 minutes, all 8 pages. As I identify, I says, oh, by the way, I'm the federal judge of the United States, chief federal judge, and you just committed 47 felonies in front of me. grabs up all the paperwork. I'll be back. Takes off. About a minute goes by, and all of a sudden they're screaming in the back room. Yell, 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 yell. This goes on for like 5 minutes. Then the supervisor in Miami, IRS, sticks his head out. Oh, Judge Miller, you're here. Well, yeah, I've got a 3x5 picture of me hanging on the wall in there. So he pops his head back in, and more screaming goes back in. It's quiet for about 2 minutes, and about 12 minutes goes past, and he comes walking out. Madam, here's your form. All your taxes have been canceled. You have zero balance. You're free to go. Have a nice day. She bought me an espresso. Aflac. Paycheck. He knew that if he went back and changed time, the company wouldn't exist to pay him his paycheck. So what did he do? He knew what the 6 winning lottery ticket numbers were going to be when he came back. So he wrote them down and put them away 6 days earlier. So when he got there, he'd have a paycheck of $15 million. Kind of a cute ending to a great story. Point is, information is the most powerful thing in the world. If you study and you become proficient and you acquire the gift of syntax, you will know how to answer the questions and save people's lives and make a difference. I do it all the time. I do it as a parlor trick. Maybe 1 out of every 20 people actually pay me to do my job. The rest of them, you ask me a question, I just pop it off to you, have a tape recorder, and I'll give you all the answers you want as fast as you can. That recorder can record. Because if you try to write stuff down, I'm not going to repeat myself. If you want to get in a conversation with me, you better have a tape recorder running, because you're not going to believe what you hear in the next 5 minutes, because it'll take you a month of research to pull it out of the dictionary. Those that know me, those that have done business with me, know that once you get into bed with me, I take care of you. I answer your questions. I'm on the phone, available from 3 a.m. in the morning, all the way from 7 a.m. in the morning till 3 a.m. in the morning. 20 hours a day I'm there available, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. How many judges do you know you can call at 2 a.m. in the morning? They're just going to answer the phone and give you an answer to a problem. I'm there. I do it all the time. But only the people that are supposed to be there and talk to me get through on the phone. Look at all the billions of people I have on my website, and yet only the people that are supposed to call me with important questions that are under contract with me are the ones that get through. Everybody else doesn't know how to do it. Yes, question?
Do you have with you kind of the life, like a kind of the life, birth, whatever?
Yeah, it's on page 2.
I would like to see one that's done.
Right there, page 3 in the book. There's also the same ones on the internet. Just fill it out, put your picture on it, have your people autograph and fingerprint it, and you're done. It's called a claim of the life. Claim of the live life. What it means is that you have knowledge of what a prepositional phrase is, how to certify what a fact is. You've identified yourself, your mother, your father, and 2 other people with claims of the life have identified you to be a fact. That's all it means. You don't file a claim of life written with the correct parsé syntax grammar with the recorder's office or with the fiction government. Why would you file a fact with a fiction? It's an oxymoron. It's only for you to use. If you want to attach it to a federal lawsuit, and if you want to go to The Hague and file a claim of the life, take a lawsuit into the Hague, showing that I'm a live person who's been violated under a genocide or apartheid situation, then they would accept your paperwork. They will not accept any paperwork from an individual who does not have a claim of the life. People, you cannot file lawsuits at The Hague. The Hague is a branch of the United Nations. You must be a United Nations member who has paid your dues of $1.6 million a year, and you must be a country. Mr. Police Officer, will you please take the witness stand? And he takes the witness stand. You take the oath of office and you hold it up. Is it your oath of office? Yes, it is. Did you write that? And he's going to say, no, that was presented to me. Do you know what the word syntax means? He's going to go, well, no, I don't. I says, you signed a document, but you don't know what grammar means. You know what the word grammar means? Do you know what the word parse means? Do you know what the word syntax means? If he answers yes to all three of those, then you're saying then you understand how to syntax this document, correct? He's going to say, no, I don't. So you don't know what you're signing, which means you don't have an oath of office with knowledge. It says you're saying one thing here, but you're just testified because you don't know what you're doing. Your Honor, this man has just identified the fact that he doesn't have an oath of office. Now let's say I says, did you go to college? And yes, I did. I went 4 years of criminology, took college in criminology. Did you study English in college? Yes, I did. Did you study English in high school? Yes, I did. All right, did you know what the word syntax means? Yes, I do. You understand what the word grammar means? Yes, I do. You understand what parse means? It's a French word. If you don't, I'll explain it means parts of a word. Okay, that's fair. You can give him a hint. So now you understand parse, syntax, grammar. Is that correct? He goes, yes, it is. Did you write this? You're going to say, well, it's an oath that I signed. Again, do you understand what it means? He's going to say, well, yes, I do. Then if you understand what this means, did you modify your facts with adverbs and adjectives? Did you change the meaning of the syntax on this document by putting adverbs and adjectives in front of the facts? What's he going to say? Is that your autograph? Yes.
He's going to have to say yes.
He's going to have to say yes. He understands that he modified. Under false and misleading statements and fictitious conveyance of language and deprivation of rights under coloring of law, you just confessed to 3 felonies, and you signed it. Now, while engaged in criminal activity under Title 42, 1988, states responsible for all fees in this case. Your Honor, this man asked me for $525 fine here. The district attorney is a co-conspiracy with this here, as the two of them work together to ask me for a $525 fine. I'm invoking the Clayton Act for a 4 times damages. I want to check for $2,200 right now, and this man just confessed to treason in front of me. And the state pays all fees. Now you cut me a check because I have a criminal confession by a police officer.
Can you take that a step further?
Claimant's knowledge. I just took away the hyphen. Now I just wrote 413341213 this is a 3. No. 1 2 1 2 1 3 4 1 2 comma 2 2 and 4 1 1 3 3 3 3 3 3 period. So that would be a 4. No, that would be a 1 2. But because of the period, because it's abbreviated, then all of these would become 4s. And then that would become a 4 also. 1 3 4 1 3 4 1 2. Just have all the answers. Judge says, no, all the facts. The judge says, he has all the facts. Judge says, I know where to look. And that's why I know I can answer your question. By the way, you're fired. For being a wise guy. Okay, what did I say that for? I said that because all of you here now have access to me. So therefore, if somebody presents you with a scenario, an argument, a document, anything, trick question, craziness, no matter what you think it is, say, hey, I got Dave's number. Call Dave. Or if I'm talking to you on a phone, I'll be syntaxing at the same time. But I'm always syntaxing. It's just automatic after 12 years, and I don't even think about it.
My question was, how do you have time to answer all these questions?
I do. I take care of everybody, and I get it all out in record time. Right. People that are doing nonsense don't get through to me. People that are actually have a legitimate question for a legitimate reason and have an emergency, do get through to me, and I answer your questions. New people are always going like, you answered your phone. He says, I see how many people you got on your website. The numbers are posted. He goes, how can you possibly get through to me? Well, everybody gets through to me. Since I've been standing here, I've had only 8 phone calls.